And welcome back to the Hot Lap in what is quite big news, all surrounding pretty much Red Bull again. Aston Martin has apparently made a massive offer to Adrian Newey. They are really desperate to get one of the best designers in Formula One. With no idea whether he's actually said yes or no to it, but I mean, this is absolutely huge. Newey to Aston, it's not impossible. Also, Alonso to Red Bull. Absolutely. There's an interesting article on the race.com that suggests that it is not as fantastical as we think. And also talking about Red Bull, Verstappen's engineer to leave Red Bull. Well, in fact, he's already left. His last race was Australia. So a new lead engineer for Japan. All that and more as we are going to get into all the news today. Pretty much a Red Bull centric news. And so Adrian Newey potentially going to Aston Martin. I mean, he's been offered big money. Yes, the Aston Martin Formula One team has approached Adrian Newey with a fresh contract offer, and this article is from motorsport.com. Says Newey, as we know, he's been the subject of interest from rival teams since joining Red Bull in 2005, and I do believe now it's the longest time he's spent with a Formula One team. As we know, he had great success with Sebastian Vettel in 2010 and 2013, and from 2021, I was going to 2021, but it sounds weird to say, doesn't it? Oh well, yeah, pretty much bang on with Verstappen, and then 22 and 23 record-breaking years. So motorsport.com, though, understands that Aston Martin boss, chief, if you will, Lawrence Stroll, yes, the big daddy money, he's upped the ante with what is believed to be a massive money offer over the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend to lure the now 65-year-old legendary designer, the most, I think, successful designer in Formula One, to lure him from Milton Keynes to its very own Silverstone headquarters, which is just kind of like down the road and a bit. So Stroll, he's been putting the building blocks in place to create a team that he hopes is going to rival Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari for years to come. Now, in addition to erecting what is believed to be state-of-the-art headquarters with a new wind tunnel on the way, Stroll has already attracted several key designers from rival teams, as well as signed a Works Honda deal for 2026. I've always said, though, brilliant, but Aston Martin Honda still sounds really weird. So poaching Newey, though, getting this chief designer, this legendary designer, is going to be seen as this missing puzzle to close the gap to F1's traditional top teams and hopefully entice Fernando Alonso to stay beyond his contract. I do think, although we'll be talking about Alonso maybe going to Red Bull, I do feel that getting Fernando Alonso to stay put at Aston Martin would be fantastic, and getting Newey there, I believe, would cement Alonso there for next season and maybe more. So it could also be an additional argument to convince the current and probably the 24 world champion Verstappen, who's also been the subject of interest to Mercedes, although they're not looking too great, Mercedes, at the moment, aren't they? But to continue a successful relationship with Newey down the road, and Honda. I mean, yes, silly season is still continuing. As we know, Verstappen holds the key to the 2025 driver market. According to some, many believe that he may well leave Red Bull come the end of the year because of the whole Christian Horner situation. I'm not so sure. But as we know, Lewis, he won't go to Ferrari because Lewis Hamilton and Leclerc are pretty much locked in. So where will he go? And as we know, there have been previous attempts to lure Adrian Newey from Red Bull, but they've not been successful. Ferrari, I think, tried, but going to Ferrari means, upping sticks, so to speak, and it going to a completely different country, potentially what you may be seen as a completely different culture as well. And Ferrari is always known for politics, which not too many people are favoured with, even though he would gain, I would argue, more legendary status if he were to go to Ferrari rather than Aston Martin, and you get a title-winning car with either Leclerc or Hamilton. So amid this turmoil, though, at Milton Keynes and this supposed ongoing power struggle between Christian Horner and the Austrian side of the business, some of the variables that kept Newey at Red Bull may yet change. So Stroll has offered Newey what's believed to be a lucrative alternative challenge to begin to bookend this illustrious career, which would put him among one of the best paid drivers on the grid. It's not clear if Stroll could be successful this time. However, it is a multi-year contract, or believed to be, and well, let's just say Newey wasn't initially planning on walking away because of this multi-year contract with Red Bull, but it's Formula One. Contracts are only worth the paper they're printed on. Aston Martin, though, interestingly, have declined to speak about this whole thing. So it normally means it's true, doesn't it? So let's talk about these Alonso to Red Bull rumours. This is, as you can probably see here, this is from the race. Alonso to Red Bull. Yeah. So is it possible? I mean, Alonso, yes, he is. He is the oldest driver. Absolutely he is. And could he, though? Could Fernando Alonso go to Red Bull? I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? If he does go to Red Bull, it might only be for absolutely one hurrah, let's say. But let's get into it. From what we hear within the Formula One paddock, Fernando Alonso is pushing very hard to find out opportunities that may be at Red Bull before, he decides his future. He's even intimated that he could retire. But once again, he never says anything without a purpose. Let's say does Fernando Alonso. So in Melbourne, he gave a poetic, they've got it treatise, I think the article says, but poetic reading on the questioning of deciding if he wishes to continue in Formula One. We hope he does, but don't be fooled. It says Alonso is always great to listen to and a hugely engaging character. Part of what makes him entertaining is his certain self-mythology. You have to read between the lines, Mark Hughes is saying in the article, to follow his real line of thought. And this is what he said. He said, when I was young, I won the first World Championship with Renault, and I signed with McLaren. And we announced 1 year before he was moving there. I was 24, so it didn't change with age. It was always like that. Formula One for me was a priority. I was racing in go-karts, and I thought I'd be a go-kart mechanic all my life. Formula One seemed not really appealing to me, he said. It was too high. I was not at that level of status. I was just a normal guy from Spain, which seems nothing really to do with Formula One. Spain's very much known for like rally and MotoGP and motorcycles, I think, at the time. And he said, I enjoy motorsport in general, driving any car. I mean, he's put Carcross, Dakar Rally, Endurance, IndyCar, Formula One is just the top of the motorsport, and these fantastic cars, you learn so much from the people that work there. They are so clever, they are so professional, and everything is fantastic. It's quite addictive. He went on to saying, I still do not consider myself into this environment. I'm much more normal than this high class. So humility, a guy who says Alonso saying he wasn't born into F1 and he was there very much against the odds. So when he talks, as he did in Melbourne, of trying to decide if he still wants to do it and how, it's quite interesting what is going to get Alonso to decide what he wants to do. Now, as we know, the quality of these available drives and how realistic a route he is going to assess them is going to be interesting. He's most certainly up there. But as we said the other day, I would be a betting man that he wouldn't go to Red Bull, and it's more likely maybe to be Carlos Sainz. But it says if you read between the lines of this attractive story he paints, there are just the snake charmer's distraction, Hugh said. Sometimes it did help me, sometimes it hurt me to be the owner of my own destiny, he said. I chose when to go from a team, when to join a team, I chose when to stop Formula One, and I chose when to come back. And now I will choose what I do next year. I will not follow what others do, okay? And they dictate my destiny. I will do it for my own good, for good or bad, it's the way I am. And he said, I don't want to wait until the summer because I think it will be unfair on me and the team. That's when he's talking about Aston Martin. And he went on to saying, if they have to find more options or things like that, I don't want to rush as well and make a decision while my head is not into next year. He said, when he talks of how important being in charge of his own destiny is to him, it's very easy to believe him. He's always marched to his own drumbeat, hasn't he? I mean, he left Ferrari. I don't think we know exactly why he left Ferrari, but he left Alpine as well, not quite under a cloud, but by his own volition, because he felt they didn't believe in him. So when he claims that extends to not letting outside influence his decision on where he will drive next year, Mark Hughes from the race is saying it's not quite so believable. And as he says, Alonso loves defying expectations, but by exceeding them. That's what he likes to do. It's Fernando Alonso. Few believed he'd find a way back into F1, leaving it for a couple of years. But the article says once he succeeded in doing it, few believed it would lead in fighting at the front. But as we know, Fernando Alonso did that in Aston Martin in 2023. And the article carries on saying the current upheaval in the driver market, created by none other than Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari, and this whole uncertainty whether Max will stay at Red Bull. Once again, I think he will. He's not getting any younger. He's 42. For still to be able to form at the top level is absolutely amazing. And if he can see a way of fighting for that title in that time frame within the next couple of years, I think he will not be having a conversation with himself about whether he wants to continue. That will happen only if he judges that the circumstances, as in he can't get that drive, are going to prompt that. So Aston Martin will be absolutely part of that consideration, particularly if Adrian Newey signs. But in terms of the short term, you have to wonder if he does go down the Red Bull route, that almost, if Max is not there, you can make an argument that almost guarantees him a championship next year. And the slightest hint that there may be an opportunity there, either through Verstappen leaving or replacing Sergio Perez. But I do think, and I'm probably not the only one here, if Verstappen replaces Sergio Perez, it's going to be fireworks between him and Max Verstappen, which, if the Red Bull are really dominant, could make for interesting viewing. But as we know, Alonso is going to be pursuing this very hard, but Aston Martin wants to keep him, understandably. And when he said this to answer his question to himself about whether he wants to go on, Mark Hughes from the race is saying it's a slightly disingenuous truth. And he says whether he wants to go on, in large, will be determined on how he assesses his future chances. But there's an obvious danger of waiting too long. Alonso did mention the summer, and that will potentially take destiny out of his hands. Jumping too soon might look like, for example, signing for Aston Martin, and then suddenly this Red Bull seat becomes free. Egg on your face, Alonso, if that happened. But it's important to him not to place excessive priority on the one being dictating his destiny. His career is often cited, as we all know, as being in the wrong place at the wrong time. When he leaves the team, they become good again. But that actually dates back to his dismissal from his first stint at McLaren, and that's at the end of 2007, which was, let's be fair, by his own hand. Yes, you can make a massive argument for big favouritism there because of the way Lewis Hamilton was treated. Lewis Hamilton was as fast as Fernando Alonso that year. That's absolutely no doubt. He did beat Fernando that year. Once again, the championship standings suggest that. But the team, towards the end, maybe weren't as supportive of Fernando Alonso. But you have that whole Hungary gate where he held Lewis Hamilton up. After, to be fair, Lewis did not let him go in qualifying. Didn't hold him up or anything. Just Alonso should have been first and Hamilton behind him. But then Fernando stood there in the pit lane while they're changing the tyres, so Lewis couldn't get his tyres changed, waited there for about 10 seconds and went, meaning Lewis, right at the end of what would have been Q3, couldn't get that fast lap in. So, could he win a third title in 2 decades after his last? Could do, couldn't it? It would be absolutely fantastic. It would be headlines, and I think the only way he's going to realistically do that within the next couple of years is probably go to Red Bull. I can't quite see, even with Adrian Newey going there, Aston Martin becoming very good, and until the next few years, they're building their wind tunnel, etc. But could Alonso get a win in the Aston Martin the next couple of years? I think absolutely, in particular if Adrian Newey does indeed go there. So that's pretty much the article. There'll be obviously the link in the description. I just thought it was quite interesting. So let's talk about a key figure, Verstappen, who's going to be leaving Verstappen and Red Bull, and that's Lee Stevenson. He's moving on from the Red Bull team, and he's Verstappen's. He's not the person that talks to him on the radio, but he is the chief mechanic Lee Stevenson, and he's called time on his career at Red Bull, leaving after 18 years. So he's been there all but 2 years at Red Bull. So Stevenson joined Red Bull in 2006, working as a number 2 mechanic, and that was in 2014. He was promoted to number 1, obviously. He became Max Verstappen's chief mechanic at the start of 2023, having worked closely alongside the Dutch driver as part of the crew ever since he was promoted to Red Bull in 2016. So he's been on Max's side of the garage. Stevenson, though, is moving to pastures new with a job with a team at the other end of the pit lane, apparently, and then that's going to involve him moving to Japan. Stevenson's departure from Red Bull was agreed during the 2023 season. Now, taken to Instagram, Stevenson confirmed his departure from Red Bull, in which he stood alongside all the cars he's worked with, which I think was really nice that the team let him do that. They organised that. And he said, I just thought I'd hop on here just to let you all know that you won't be seeing any more posts from me from Red Bull because today's my last day. He says it's been an amazing 18 years and all the things I've managed to achieve here with the team. It's just been absolutely incredible. Working on the first car, the RB2, all the way to the RB16B, the RB16B, otherwise known as, and obviously that record-breaking RB19. Why did he choose to leave? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he's not going to say. It's all rumours. People are going, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Could it be because Red Bull are in disarray, let's say, at the moment, or he's just received a lucrative offer. Wow, can't even say that. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, if you can, please like and subscribe. That would be amazing. As you can see, the big button there behind me. If I move out of the way, and can we play it again? Like and subscribe. There it is. Yeah. Thank you so much for everyone clicking that subscribe button, mentioning it in the comments, even giving us some advice on the channel. I try and do something, try and improve something every week or two, something different. As you can see, this is a slightly different format where my face is slightly bigger, for right or wrong, I guess. But let us know what you think down below about how we can improve. And we'll speak to you soon. Stay tuned. It's also the rally at the moment at this weekend down in Safari in Kenya, which we've just done a recent video on. So if you want to look at that, that's great. Also, will be coming up will be the conclusion to the 1995 Martin Brundle F1 season. Anyway, I digress. We will speak to you soon. Thank you very much if you made it this far.